So what's going on, guys? How we doing out there? It's Friday again, which means it is streaming time again. Welcome back. So, geez, man, it doesn't seem like a week, does it? Time seems to be flying by, at least for me. Did make some headway though. I guess the funny thing is that it won't look like too much on the surface. I mean, you can see the levels are missing now, but ton of stuff improved under the hood. So we'll talk about some of that, and then I'm going to push on. But the big thing was finishing up the gems, right? If you guys remember last Friday, I was trying to integrate the idea that gems would pop out at all the right times. Excuse me. Pretty much have that in good shape now. And then the next thing was to start moving on to the idea of doing procedurally generated levels, right? And at least in terms of shuffling the order. That's always something I intended to do, but I just hadn't really gotten around to doing it, but I finally have. So I had an initial system which works, but so I'll show you. I hit play here real quick. And then what you see right here, boom, is all the levels just dropped in, right? So the cool thing is, okay, now we start here in the center, and if I restart, we're going to be somewhere else now. Yeah, now we're off to the left side. So randomizing levels, right? Perfect. That's exactly what I want. But what I don't want is right now, the way my system works is I just look at, I generate a level, and then I look at which way the exit path is, center, left, or right. And then I go find a matching one, right, that starts either center, left, or right, and then pops that up. The catch there is, of course, I'm going to get a lot of repetition. So I don't know if you could see this, but so like here we have a couple of sixes. So this the sixth level, right, which you see the first one right here, right, is this. That's like number 6, right? It repeats a couple times. 2 repeats over 3 times. 8 is repeating, right? So anyways, the point is that it doesn't really pay any mind to how many times it repeats a level, which is going to suck because that means you're seeing the same stuff. It may be flopped, right, but you're still going to be seeing the same levels over and over again. Not what I want. I mean, it's nice that I actually do have a system, you know, that is working, you know, so it's cool that now the game doesn't really play the same way twice now because you don't know what levels you're going to be facing. So like here, and then I also went back to all of my levels and also tried to expand them as much as possible to make variations where it goes up the center, the left or right, so that way there's more chances of not repeating levels, right? So yeah, and you see like over here, good. And then now they're spewing out gems, and if you don't get them within 5 seconds, they go away. I did that primarily just because, you know, if you ignore them, they're just going to sit down there until they get recycled. I have a pool of 10, so they're just going to sit there. So now I put a 5-second timer on it. You either collect it within 5 seconds or you lose it. So for example, I'll let that one sit there. It's a green one. And poof, it's gone. There you go. So I mean, we're already like improved, right? Now you don't know what you're going to face every time. So it's already improved. You already got a different new challenge, which is already fun. Ooh. Pull that one off by luck. I'm not doing God mode here, so if I take damage, I'm definitely going to, lose. But, yeah, so I'm really happy with, oh, see, there you go, damaged. I'm happy with the fact that I do have the initial system, right? So, I mean, and the key thing here is that you see the gap is forming every time. I had to do this, by the way. This is kind of a subtle thing, but so because I have an odd number of tiles, right, the center was always off-centered, right, by 1 tile, right? So what I ended up doing was just opening the center by 1, so that way it's an odd number now, right? Or no, sorry, actually take it back. It's actually even, but then my hole, right, was 3 tiles wide. So there's no way to make a centerpiece that's centered when it's 3 and it's offset. So I just opened it to 4, and I had to go back and adjust all the levels. So now this gap is 4 wide. You know, I mean, it makes it a little easier to get through this area, but, you know, the trade-off was either squish it down to 2, which I thought was going to be a little punishing. I still could come back and do that, I guess. But for right now, I think I'm okay with just having the the 4 be a, the center being a 4 wide thing. I don't see much problem with that. All right, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to pick up, but we're already seeing some repetition here. Some of these levels we keep seeing, and sometimes they're flopped, but sometimes they're not. So like here, we got deja vu all over again. We just faced this one a little while ago. So I had to come up with a better system, and that's what I was working on when I ran out of time and started to join you guys. So what I'm doing now is trying to come up with a better system where I'm kind of addressing it. And what I did was it did a multi-dimensional array, right? So then I can expand it. So when I make new levels for each of these worlds, which I still have to do, I still got to come back and add more levels. Right now it's 10, which is not nearly enough. I was hoping to get help from the outside, but unfortunately that didn't pan out the way I kind of hoped it would. So it's still back on my shoulders again. But yeah, cry me a river. But so no big deal. So basically what I'm going to do is I come up with this multi-dimensional array, and here's where we see this. Okay, so what I've done now is I create an integer-based multi-dimensional array, and let me see, did I actually send that off? Yep. All right, so then what I do is pretty simple, right? So it's going to be 10 deep, right, and 7 across. And then so what I do is, so I have 7 elements, right, 0 through 6. First one indicates it's a level, so that way I can figure out what the name is, right, and I can fetch it just based off of that. Next thing I do is I determine if it's a bonus level as well, because I had 3 levels that I created that specifically have like the bonus side room, and I got to be kind of sparing with those. I don't want to use them too frequently, right? So I signify that, so if I know, and then now I determine if it's which way the the in and outs connections are. So left and right would be opposite, right? Left would be obviously on the same side. I don't list the right because levels can flop now. Oh, that's also what I did. Sorry. I guess another thing I did too since last Friday was I created the ability to take a level and actually invert it. So it's not just a matter of scaling, because what I have to do is go back in and take the food, right, because it has like the little QTC word on it, and have to flip all those, and also go back into the enemies and make sure that they're flopped, and then redirected in the right direction. So I had a bunch of screw ups, right? It would be kind of funny where you'd jump in there, and instead of like charging you, he'd actually kind of run the opposite direction and then kind of walk, almost like moonwalk backwards towards you, which was amusing, but only the first time. After that I was getting annoyed. But so I finally did come up with a system to let's see, I think I can actually show you. Let's go into scripts, level manager. I think it's under here. Yeah, flip level. So so what I do is I hunt for all the food, which I list as QTCs, right? And then I just do a simple scale on the X for those guys. And then for the enemies, in that case, then I actually go in and I send a message to each enemy and tell it that it needs to flip itself. So then if we go into, let's see, it's charging, isn't it? Yeah. I can't. What the heck is that script? Oh, come on. I can't even remember the name of the script that I have attached to it. That's pretty sad. Alright, so that's not helping. Alright, I'll just fire it up. It's gonna go maximize on me. Glommer offset. Oh, okay, Glommer. I just called it Glommer. Jeez. Doofus. Alright. So let's bring him back up. There it is. Sweet. And I probably tossed it at the bottom. No, I didn't. Flip enemy. Alright. So then it's just a matter of going into its specific settings. So direction, obviously it's initial direction. I just flop that just by multiplying it by -1. It's initial direction. initial position. So, and then I also, where I record his position, because that's how I figure out when he misses, right? And he has to determine, because he can miss in both directions. So then what I do is when the game starts, he looks at his initial position, and that's his base position. So in this case, because he starts on the wrong side, right? Because I'm actually flopping him at runtime. So then I just take his initial position and multiply by -1. So then it's flopped to the other side. Which just means all that do is that, I have like the entire group that controls it, and I just make sure that the group controller is right there in the center, and then he's to one side or the other. So that way it's easier just to pop him once, and then I obviously do the scale so he's facing the direction, right? And then I actually flip the whole thing. So, and it works, right? So, yeah, because you have not seen a single Glommer moonwalk since I've added all that. Actually, it took a little longer than I thought it would, but the system works pretty nicely now. It all happens at runtime right when it gets loaded. So there's a little bit of hit when it's first loading up, but modern phones, modern PCs, you're never going to notice that. Still an absolute fraction of a second. If I'm in it for Commodore 64, it might take a little longer, but we're not going to make it for C64. Maybe for a Switch. Fingers crossed. We'll see what the Nintendo people got to say. Haven't heard from them. Well, I heard that they were going to review it. We'll see. So it could take up to a month for them to actually review it and contemplate and get back. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, so let's get back. So now, having shown you all that, right? So everything is in working order at this point, right? So as I said, so we start here, and you see every time I restart now, right, we get different levels, right? So it's all randomized now. So beautiful, that's working, right? So never the same game twice, but same levels twice, 3, 4 times, which is definitely what I want to fix, because the sense of deja vu is going to be just stupid insane here. So boom. All right. So for example, I'll take one more look at this. If we come down here, we go to my game controller. Let's just see how many repeats we have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occurrences of my level 8, which is terrible, right? By the second or third time you see level 8, you kind of go, wait, this looks too familiar. But then by the 5th time, you're kind of going, geez, man, this is crap, right? So we're going to fix that. So as I was showing you, here's my system, right? So I look at, and you guys can correct me on this. What I wanted to do was actually just kind of add this through the inspector, but as far as I can tell, there's no legitimate way to do a multi-dimensional array public and have it come up in the inspector. So, excuse me, as far as I can tell, either I'm doing something wrong or it's not a possibility, and you have to just pass all those values through code, which is what I'm kind of doing now. I mean, what I'd love to do is have this public world levels. And I come up in here, and it would pop up right here at the top. Compiling, and boom, it's nowhere to be found, right? So you guys that are exponentially smarter than me can tell me if there's some way to publicly display. I did a quick Google search, and I couldn't find anything that really gave me any inside information. So my workaround has just been to reluctantly do it manually, right? So like it's